So, Josh, thanks for joining me
Thank you for having me, Mike.
from sunny or not so sunny Florida.
Yeah, it's funny. We get like rain almost every single day, but it is not that like gloomy rain where it looks like gray outside. It's more like you can still see the sun out there. So it's funny. Even when it's pouring rain, like it's kind of light outside still. So, but yeah, we're
Yeah,
getting a lot of storms right now.
yeah, it was quite gloomy over here, so I think I'd prefer your scenario.
Yeah, it is. That's why I like it because even when it's bad weather, it's still better than a lot of places.
Yeah, yeah, and you're the CEO of the email agency.
Yes.
Got that right? Yeah,
Yep.
and yeah, well, basically, just like, why are you concentrating on email in particular? Because a lot of people, there's a meme, isn't there? Like, email is dead. That comes out every so often. I don't believe that. I don't
Right.
believe that at all. Um, but what was your journey into email, and how have you become an email specialist?
Okay. Well, there's actually this is a two-part answer because there's a few things I would say about this. First, just to answer, you kind of asked like why a concentration on email. And I think aside from me being pretty passionate about it, which I'll get to in a second, I think it's for any business, really, I focus on businesses that sell online, but any business, your list of people is your main source of traffic. And it's like, it's the traffic that you own as a business. So it's an asset of your company. So if you have an email list, then marketing to that email list is a bit different than, going out and advertising on a mainstream channel, whether it be Facebook or YouTube or Google or even like television, radio. Those are all like one to many channels where you're sort of sending a message out to a broad audience and you're looking for new people who maybe haven't heard of you yet. But email is different because email, you're talking to the people who already know who you are and they've signed up to hear from you. So we call it, your back end essentially. It's whereas everything else that I just mentioned would be your front end. But what's cool about email is it's more direct. It's not meant to be like a one to many channel. It's more of a one to one. So I think that that's really powerful in marketing to be able to talk one to one. But it's also really, really fun. And I think it's an important part of marketing, but it's something that a lot of companies don't understand. They don't really know how to do it effectively, and they sort of treat it the same as all the other ways of advertising. And it is different. And so it does have to be treated a certain way. So we have found I think, a need in the marketplace and a space where we can, be the email experts and, specialize in that and help brands who, haven't really been, getting the most out of that channel. But my journey is, I'll give you the short version, but how I got into it is a bit weird because I was, go back about 10 years. I was in college. I was about 21 years old, and I was studying at a university up in New Jersey, where I'm originally from, and I was in school for hospitality, which was like where I lived and where I went to school. There's a lot of casinos and hotels near there, so I thought I wanted to go into that field. I always thought it would be cool to own a casino. I didn't really realize like that the hospitality field was not really that. It was very different. But anyway, so sort of accidentally got into this because what happened was I was looking for help with a problem, and it's a little personal, but I don't mind sharing. So I was struggling a little bit with I'll just say dating and meeting women and finding a girlfriend. So I, would go out with my friends. I had all, my friends in college. We would go out to these different parties, like fraternity parties. And I would be the guy, like all my friends would kind of go out and immediately start, hooking up with different women. And I would be sort of the guy standing there on the sidelines, kind of shy and not knowing what to say, like scared to even go approach. So that was sort of who I was at that time. So I did what I thought was a good idea, which was I went on the internet and searched for help with this, help with, getting over fear of approach and getting over, fear of talking to girls. And I found this newsletter, this email newsletter, and it was called Dating Advice Daily. And it was a free newsletter, and you sign up for it. And every single day, this guy who was 24 years old and, was known as being, great at this in this area, and he would send emails with advice every single day. So I joined the newsletter, and every day I'm reading this, and, it started working. I started having, a lot more confidence and things like that. And so he would sell different programs to his list. And so he wrote an ebook, and he sold the ebook for $97, I think it was. And so I bought that. So I know I said long story short. So basically what I didn't realize was I was starting to learn digital marketing right then and there. Had no idea, but I stayed on this guy's list for a while. Fast forward a couple years from there, I end up going to law school here in Florida because I was sort of, disenfranchised with the hospitality thing. I didn't want to do that. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my career, except for the fact that I had always wanted to have my own business. And so sort of buying time, I went to law school. And it was while I was in law school, and I was continuing to read this newsletter, and I started joining other newsletters, and I started learning about digital marketing and specifically email marketing. So to bring it back around, when my brother and I decided to start this business, as I was graduating law school and he was graduating college, and we decided to not do what we had studied and start this business, we saw this need where a lot of the brands and companies that sell online were not using the type of email marketing that we had learned and had been studying for a couple of years at that point, which is, direct response email marketing. And we had learned all these things, and we knew like we could help these companies because they weren't using it. So I know I went on for a few minutes there, but it's kind of a convoluted way of coming back around to it. But like that is, that's just the truth of how I got into this. It's not what you'll hear from most digital marketing people. But I think there are a lot of people out there that maybe don't know what they want to do with their careers, and they're trying to figure it out. And sometimes, happy accidents are sort of the best way for that to come about.
Wow. Yeah. So you were a consumer first, and
Yes,
then
very much.
fan, and that led you to to email marketing and digital marketing.
Yes.
Because it's interesting you talk about building relationships with email, and
Yep.
email has got a bit of a reputation for selling rather than building relationships or spamming people.
Right.
So what would your advice be for somebody who is building an email list and sending out emails about their product or service?
So I think that it is, just to sort of the first thing you said there about sort of the reputation. I think it's unfortunate but important for everybody to think about this. It's unfortunate that email has a bad reputation, because I think it's been, as a channel or as a medium, it has been abused over time. And people have used it for spam. They've used it to just, even not really respect when, spam is one thing. That's like people who they don't want to hear from you. But putting that aside, you have people who do want to hear from different companies and brands, and they sign up, but then people kind of abuse that relationship where all they do is just send one sale email after the next. And I'm talking about emails that really offer no value, right? Other than here's a coupon, here's an offer, buy this now, shop now, whatever. And it's very, absent any kind of help for that person or any value other than trying to get them to buy. So I think when you do that and that's all you do, I think that's abuse to the people who signed up to hear from you, because when people sign up to an email list, they may want a discount or something when they sign up, right? Because if you offer them a discount, they may sign up because they want to get the discount. But what they really want is they want help. They want they want help with some problem, right? And so you go back to what I said about how I had a problem. I wanted help with dating, and I looked until I found someone who I felt like could help me. When I received an email every single day from this newsletter, every single day the email did give me advice and it was helping me. Sometimes it would tell a story and that story would help me. So no matter what you're selling, what you have to realize is you aren't selling a commodity. Even if you sell, I mean, take the classic example, even if you sell a pen, it's not a commodity. You're still helping solve a problem. What is that problem? I don't want to get into that and go down that exercise, but you're helping someone who is, has a job or a career, and they need to be able to get their thoughts out on paper, okay, to try to get into the exercise. But my point is, anyone who has an email list, the advice is think about what problem you're solving, or what problem you could potentially be solving for the people on your list, and understand that it's your job to provide some sort of value. That's why we open emails. That's why we do engage, is because you are giving me something in that email, and it could be purely entertainment. That's actually the best way to do it. Is if, and there are brands who do this really well, if your email is entertaining, if it tells some sort of story, or maybe it's funny, maybe there's a joke in there or a pun or something that I can laugh at, or, just some sort of entertainment, that is super valuable. But what you have to realize is do something other than sell, and then sell, like learn direct response. And that's, if you've never heard of direct response, or if you're not really sure, maybe you've heard of it, you don't know how to do it. It's sort of a, it's one thing to sit here as a direct response marketer and say, learn direct response. It's not necessarily an easy thing. It takes practice, but what it means is you can sell in your emails without it seeming like you're selling. Like it's very much a relationship sort of thing, and you're more like a friend who is giving advice to someone, and that advice may include buying their products. So I don't know if that answered your question. I hope so, though.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like a sales letter would be kind of a sales letter, but obviously an engaging one that tells a story.
It can be, for sure. But it doesn't have to. Like, you can have a direct response email that is, pretty short, pretty like on point, and it is selling a product, right? You might have a promotional email that is really just, selling this coffee mug, and I'm giving you, 10% off this coffee mug today. But that email can still come across in a way where I'm using, I'm using certain, a conversational style in the email that is not the same thing as just showing a picture of the mug and saying 10% off. Here's what the mug is. Here's its features. Click here to buy it now.
Yeah,
That can work sometimes. And I'm not saying never do that, but I am saying there are ways to, instead of doing that, sort of talk about, the benefits of this mug to your particular person, or to even just very simply talk conversationally in an email like you would if you were talking to a friend, rather than just, as if I'm looking at some advertisement in a magazine.
yeah, yeah. Because there are retargeting emails, which I guess would be more to do with selling something. Like
Yeah,
it's a website and they get an email saying, you know, you abandoned the cart or you're
right.
in this.
Yeah.
That's something different.
Yes.
Yeah. But that can
Yeah.
be, but that's still okay.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, abandoned cart emails are a great example because they're pretty short emails that are just trying to get you to return your cart. But what we try to do with abandoned cart emails, excuse me, is make them just a little more interesting than the average. Like there's something in there that is more entertaining or something in there that speaks to sort of the benefit of shopping at our store, or maybe it speaks to the problem that our brand is trying to solve that you probably have if if you added this item to your cart. There's something in there that is of a what we would call a direct response element to that email where it is still I'd say just a little more effort than the typical, here's your item in your cart, click here to return to cart. You know what I mean? Because we're in a world right now where consumers are more sophisticated. They are bombarded with marketing all the time. They sign up for emails very easily because they know we've been conditioned to know if we sign up for an email list, I'm going to get a discount, I'm going to get some sort of deal, and that's fine. But if you want to stand out, you can choose not to stand out. You can be a part of the noise and be like everybody else out there. You just won't make as much money as you could, and you won't have as much of an impact as you could as a company. But if you want to stand out, if you want to have a bit more impact, and if you want to make more money than the average, then you do need to put in just a little bit more effort into this aspect of your marketing because again, it's the thing that is so ignored. It's the thing that people don't like. There's a stigma around it. So we can fix that by just paying a little bit more attention and being a little bit more, I guess, empathetic as marketers to what that person on the other end is experiencing. It's about creating a good experience for them at the end of the day.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
Mhm.
I mean, would you say there's a maximum amount of times that you would email somebody in? Would you? Is there? There's probably no real answer to this question, really. But is there is there kind of like a recommended amount of times you would email somebody in a week
Yeah,
or
like how much
a day
is too much, right?
even? Yeah.
How much?
Is there an answer to that question, or does it
Yeah,
depend?
I think it does depend. What's funny? Like sometimes I'll tell you the one that like here's where you can get into trouble with it is uh if you're sending an email on a pretty regular basis, meaning I mean maybe say you are sending every day one email, right? But then you also have all these different automated email sequences. So you've got your, welcome automation, your abandoned cart, your post purchase, win back, like different ones going all the time where you can get into trouble. Sometimes people will like email in and say, hey, you're emailing me way too much. And a lot of times it'll be because you don't have the proper filters set up, and this is a technical thing, but in your like email software you don't have the right filters in there to make sure that people who get this email don't get this other email, because
Yeah,
you need to pay attention to that, because sometimes you'll have people and you'll realize when they email you and say, hey, I got 5 emails from you in the last 48 hours, and you're like, what, how? And then you look and you're like, oh no, they're in like 2 different automations at the same time and they got my campaign. So that's something to pay attention to. That's like the line that you try not to cross. And I'll admit, I mean, we are experienced in this area, and we've worked with directly done email marketing for somewhere around like 50 companies at this point, and we've done email strategies for over 100. I think it's like 115 at this point, something like that. This still happens from time to time. I hate that when that happens. It's like it's less, but like every once in a while you'll find, you know, somebody on an account will be like, oh, I forgot that filter somewhere. And it's like, how did that happen? And then you just got to deal with that. Try not to let that happen though. In a typical week though, in terms of campaigns, it does depend on the brand because you know, I don't say everyone should email every single day, but I will say 90% of companies should build up to the point where they are sending one email a day. And there are brands, there are companies who can get away with sending a lot more email. One of the most infamous people for this is Grant Cardone. And it, you know, maybe he's not, maybe you think he's nothing like your business, right? He's a guru, right? He's a guy that teaches real estate and sales and marketing and all this stuff. But you know, he is known for this, and I've been on his email list for years. And some days I'll get like 8 emails from Grant Cardone in the same day. But the thing is, I don't read most of them, but I don't unsubscribe either because every once in a while I'll see one that catches my attention. It'll be a really good email, and they're all good emails. That's the thing. He sends so much. His company sends so many emails, but they're all interesting. They're all very valuable. So he can get away with that, and the why, because he's built up to that and he's been doing that for many years. So I think you don't go from 0 to 100. You don't, if you're not sending much email, you don't start sending every single day. But I think, you know, in general, every brand should be sending a minimum of a few times a week. And if you're not doing that, you really want to start. It's important to be consistent because you're going to get more resistance and more unsubscribes if you're inconsistent and you don't send a lot of email, and then all of a sudden when you have a sale or some kind of event going on, now you're sending all kinds of email. That's where you're going to get into trouble. It's better to be consistent, send a few times a week, and then gradually over time send more, because you can, like, once people are engaged and they're used to hearing from you, you can increase that amount. You can start sending 5 times a week, and then you can get up to the point where there's basically 1 email a day on most days. And you won't get a ton of unsubscribes, and there won't be people complaining because you've sort of built up to that point, and you're, you know, it's respectful at that point to do that. But always just keep in mind, like, you know, think of it from their side. Like, if you are sending emails that are sort of just, you know, like I said, if they all look like a, you know, a billboard advertisement or an ad out of a magazine and there's not much to them, no one wants that every day, you know? So think about, from your user's perspective, you know, what does this look like? And is this helpful to them?
Yeah. I'm on Grant's email list too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
Yeah,
but I've never unsubscribed.
exactly. Yeah.
I've actually bought his products from email.
Yes, me too. It's been a while, but I have as well. And
So would you say that a good strategy would be to reverse engineer emails? Like if you subscribe maybe to some companies that were similar to your niche, and then see what they do, and then maybe change or use it for inspiration?
definitely use it for inspiration, I would say. Would I reverse engineer it? Maybe. It's funny. I think my brother, who's you know, more in charge of the creative here at my agency, he may have a different answer if you asked him. But I think the thing with reverse engineering is you have to be careful because you don't always know what they're doing and why. So I'll give you an example. Like, sometimes brands will, for like Black Friday's coming up, Black Friday and Cyber Monday is coming up fast, and brands will sometimes look at what their competitors are doing and try to copy that, and try to reverse engineer it and do the same thing. And that's not always a good idea. You know, a lot of times it's not a good idea because they may be doing something that has worked for them for a certain reason, and they may have done something before that, like if you are, and you'll understand this the more you do email, your program, your email program, your email campaigns, and sort of like everything that you send, there's a history there. So there's, years of this asset existing in your company that you've really worked on, and you have learned what works well for your audience, and every audience is different. This is why, I love email marketing so much, but it's also very challenging because, every company that we work with, it's very hard for us to have, like, with, if we were an SEO agency, or like some agencies, I feel like can really get like this sort of template in place and sort of repeat it over and over and over and over again. And the process works the same pretty much every time. And maybe not, I don't want to overgeneralize, but I think a lot of people maybe look at agency work that way. And with email, it's so hard to do that because every business is so different, and you have to have custom solutions, and you have to have custom, ways of doing things with email marketing. So that's what I'm trying to say is, like, you can't always reverse engineer what your competitors are doing or other people in your space, because you don't know everything about why they're doing what they're doing and why it works for their audience. And even if they are in your same space, their audience might be very different than your audience. So you have to build this history over time, and learn who your audience is and learn what works best for them. However, yes, definitely you can get inspiration from what you see other people doing, and you should. And that's the work, right? That's the process of being creative in marketing, is you get inspired by other things, and you sort of put these things together in your mind. You take something you learned from this brand, something you learned from this person that maybe is outside of your niche, outside of your industry. I love doing this. Like, I take inspiration from movies, I take inspiration from shows, and then I combine it with stuff I see in marketing and stuff I see, in different competitors doing, different companies. And those things come together in your brain, and then you create something new out of those things. So definitely take inspiration.
Yeah, yeah. And would you say using AI would be a good idea when you're creating email content?
I will say this about it. I am not the best person to answer that question, because I feel like I'm behind, in the sense that I haven't dove into the AI world the way a lot of people have. And actually, everyone on my team, we're a small agency. Our team is 9 people, so there's 8 others besides me. I think every single one of them is way more well versed in AI than me. They use it. I mean, we have email specialists who use AI to create emails, in combination with their own skills and their writing and stuff, but they'll sometimes use it to help with a specific, GPT-4 to help with a specific part of an email, or a certain problem that they're having, a hard time figuring out. They'll actually be using it. And I know, like, now it can read pictures. It's like the latest update or whatever, that it can actually look at a picture and help. And so I know one of our email specialist who's been with us for a long time, Chris, he was just sending me some things about it and saying, what we can do with this. And I'm just like, I haven't done it yet. I think AI is huge, and I think we're just at the very early stages of it. I like using it for, like, sometimes what I'll do is, if I'm writing an email, or like not necessarily an email, but like sometimes I'll do content, or even a cold email, because we do cold email when we're like reaching out to other companies and wanting to tell them about our services. So I'll write an email, and then I'll go to GPT-4 and say, write this in the voice of Don Draper from Mad Men, just to see what it would, how it comes out. And I think it's entertaining, and it's sometimes you get some cool ideas. I've never, at least, and I don't, like, I'm not an authority on it, like I said, but like, I've never taken something and like used it word for word from the AI, because I feel like it always needs some work. but it can definitely help. That's the answer. I just always feel like I'm sort of behind the times. Have you found it to be like helpful in what you do?
Yeah. I work in the Google Ads,
Right.
Meta Ads space,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's very useful for as 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 you say. I don't use all the copy and all the suggestions that it gives, but it definitely helps,
Right.
especially when you're having trouble with something and you need some maybe just a bit of a kick,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
get the ideas flowing. It definitely
Right.
helps with that.
I I wanted to get to the point. What's that?
And also technically as well. Like I'm not a coder,
Right.
so
Okay.
it's good for like formulating code if needed.
Okay, I can do that. Okay, that's what I was just gonna say. See, that's the thing is like to me, the thing that I would want to use it for is that stuff, like the technical things. Like if it can get to the point where the AI can actually like set up the campaign correctly, do the coding if there's coding involved, and then like send the email, that would be great. I feel
Yeah.
like that would be a great use for AI, not just the creative side.
I mean, do you have a platform that you prefer, an email client that you find good
Yes.
for
For
your for
most of our clients, we use Klaviyo because they're e-commerce. Um, and for me personally, like my email list, I use Active Campaign just because it's one that I've used for a long time, and I have a small email list, less than 1,000 people, so I just use that. But
Hmm.
yeah.
That's interesting. Do you have any thoughts on Mailchimp and those?
Generally, I don't like MailChimp. I'll admit I haven't used it in years, so I haven't used it since it was bought by Intuit. But the last time I used it was like for anything, was probably 2019. Um, I just think that it's probably good for like if you're just getting into email marketing and you have a list and you're starting. I think it's good. I just have gotten away from it because I don't know, the interface was never super like friendly to me. So I have nothing like big against it. It's just it's not my preferred. I kind of categorize it with like Aweber. Some of the ones that have been around quite a while. They're good to sort of start off, but maybe they don't have the best features for like everything that I want to do.
Yeah, yeah. And do you have any tips on subject lines?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I pride myself on I think I have good subject lines. So there's different types of subject lines, and the one that I use the most would I guess be curiosity, meaning like a lot of times I will use a subject line that isn't immediately obvious what the email's about, but it's something from the email that you would have to open it to really understand like what the context is behind the subject line. So sometimes it'll be like a pull quote, or it'll be like um, I guess to give advice though on a subject line is this like simple is better. If you're trying to get your email opened, simple is better. I think that the hardest thing to do these days in a subject line, if you want to get it opened, is to use, you know, something along the lines of like get our latest October deals or something like that. Like that's just not, it's too generic.
Boring.
Yeah, and it's too similar to, you're gonna see a lot of that. This you're gonna see a bunch on Halloween. I know I'm gonna see, I mean, I can count, probably it would take a little while to count up all the emails I'm gonna get that say our spooktacular deals, right? Enough of that, you know. So what do we do? I mean, I always tell this story about subject lines. There's the most famous and most successful subject line of all time is one word. Hey, that was it. And that was actually sent by Barack Obama during his initial like presidential campaign, and I guess it would have been 2008 or something like that. And it was just a note from him asking for donations, and it made something crazy like $750 million or some. It's like the most successful email of all time. You can look it up. I don't know. Don't quote me on the number. But it's some crazy amount. And the subject line was just "Hey." Um, and sometimes I'll even use that subject line when I'm in some of my emails, and it always does get like super high open rate because again, it's personal, it's direct, it's just one-on-one. And also I don't know what the email is about and I want to see. So I will, me personally, I love using curiosity in the subject line. It's a short phrase or a couple of words or a sentence that has something to do with something in the email, but it's not immediately obvious what that is. So that'd be my advice.
Sure, sure. One thing that has changed over the last few years is mobile.
Yeah.
I believe a lot of emails now are accessed via mobile device.
Mhm.
Does that influence how you should write an email?
Um, well, I think not exactly. I mean, I think other than the fact that you should always test your emails and make sure it looks good on mobile. So like whenever I send an email, I really am testing it for mobile. I don't even really bother to check it on desktop. Maybe that's not a best practice. And I'm not talking about for my clients. I don't do the emails for my clients anymore, but I'm talking me for my list.
Yeah,
Um, I check every email that I'm about to send out to my email list. I open it on my phone in an email account that's specific for these kinds of things, and I just look to make sure it looks good on my phone. So I think that in that respect, yes. But does that mean your emails should be shorter? No, not necessarily. They can be, but usually the length of the email doesn't matter. It's more, is what you're saying valuable? I mean, everything in the email should have a purpose and it should have some sort of value to it. Um, I guess there is like, if you are coding an email, I think there's more to worry about. And, we do some of that in our agency for our clients, but we tend to make everything still pretty simple. And so, a lot of times what you would see people do with code in email can be accomplished just using a drag and drop builder on the email platform, and you're going to get better delivery than you will with a hard coded email, which is going to probably go to the promotions tab, if not spam. And it's just harder because you have to do all kinds of checks to make sure it's going to render right on every device. That's one thing. And there are agencies who specialize in that, and they have 20 coders on their team and QA people, and all they do is figure out how is this going to look on every device. To me, that's non-essential. And if you have you can make a good looking eye-catching email using a builder on a platform like Klaviyo, and it's going to look great across every device because they've designed their software that way, and you don't have to worry about that. Always check though, for sure. Always check.
yeah, yeah. That's good advice. Would you say, is there such a thing as a spam word? Like you see people, the word free, for example,
Yeah.
is written with a
Yeah.
asterisk inside it sometimes to try and hide it from the spam filters.
Yeah.
Does that work, or is that just a I don't
Well,
think it would have any effect?
it it definitely there are spam words, yes. There are words that can trigger spam filters. At our agency we have like a few different resources that all of our people have, which is like a list of all the words that you should be careful about. That said, you can overcome that by having a really good reputation with, excuse me, a really good like sender reputation with the different ISPs. All the different email clients, meaning like Google, Apple Mail, Outlook, all the different, where you're going to read your email. And this is a different conversation. We don't have to go down this rabbit hole, but there are all kinds of, components to having good deliverability. And if you work on your deliverability and you build a good reputation with those different providers, then you can get away with using certain words that other people can't. And you may be able to use the word free even in a subject line and still hit the inbox. But that's, the product of having good deliverability. It's not like, so yes, like if you, in general, you should be aware that there are certain words, and you'd be surprised sometimes, like some of the words. That's why it's like you always kind of have to test, and I say this a lot, but before you send an email, you should have different mail accounts that you've had for this purpose, where you've signed up, you've got a standard Gmail account, a standard Hotmail account, a standard Apple account, and you've signed up to different email lists on there. But you don't really open emails on there. You just go to the inbox to check, and basically you see where does it go when you test this email, and you can see if it goes to spam, and you don't want it to go to spam. Obviously, there are tools that allow you to check. Glock Apps is the one that we use and that I recommend. Basically, it'll do this work for you, where you can just send the email to the software and it'll show you a whole bunch of information on where it goes, what filters it triggers, what words it'll highlight for you if there's certain words that you should probably remove or change. If there's problems with the code, it'll tell you those things. So it is, there's a lot to deliverability. Overall, a spammy email is an email that sounds super salesy. And it's, but I wouldn't put too much into it. Like, don't worry about if you're just a business owner that has a small email list and you're doing this yourself and you're just, sending emails, getting started, or maybe you're not just getting started, but you just send to a small list. Don't worry about this yet. I mean, you could spend a lot of time on this, and the truth is that, like, around certain holidays, even using the name of the holiday in the email will trigger spam, because that's how crazy it's gotten these days with the different email platforms. So don't worry too much about it. But if you do have a big email list, that's why it's good sometimes to work with somebody, whether it's, an agency or just like somebody on your team that knows email, somebody who can do this work for you of making sure that your emails are going to, hit the inbox. And if they're really good, the primary main inbox of your users and not the promotions tab.
Yeah. That does make sense. I mean, to me, having an email list and having a website, they're two assets that you own.
Mm-hmm.
Google, Facebook, we don't own those platforms. They can kick you off, if they want to, but your email list is yours, isn't it?
Right.
And that's why I love what you do, because it shows that email still works, and you've got more control over email than you have over other platforms.
Right. I mean, and you can build that asset, over time. You grow that list, and you put the effort in and the time into creating a good, valuable email program, and then selling things to that list. So then over time, how much each person on that list is worth on average. And if somebody signs up to my list, they're worth X amount of dollars to me. And this tells me so much. Now I know if I spend Y to acquire a customer, but then I'm going to make back X through the email list when they join, now I have a business. I can figure out how much profit I can make. And that's really, really good if you ever want to sell your company. That's, build that value of that asset, and that's going to factor into what your company is worth. So that's why it's people that think email is dead, or they just don't worry about it, like, they're really missing out on a huge, like, they don't really understand sort of a fundamental part of the business online. Is like that email list is an asset. You're right. It's very similar to just your website. It is an asset that you own. And so you want to work on building that value, and even though it's not a perfect science, putting a real dollar value on that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so now for crunching gear change with
Yeah.
some funnish questions.
Okay.
Uh, so I think I read somewhere or heard somewhere that were you a musician or you
Magician.
musician?
Magician, like in magic.
Oh no, musician as in like guitar player, rock concert,
Yeah,
rock
no, not
musician.
that. Yeah, no, not a musician, but I was a magician for a long time.
Oh, maybe that's what it was. I misheard.
Yeah,
So you're a
yeah,
magician. Ah, okay, okay.
yeah.
Do you have any favorite tricks? You don't need to do them now, but
It'd be hard to explain it, but yes. Yeah, I did that professionally for a number of years. But
wow.
I was young. I did it. I started when I was in high school when I was 15. And then I did that throughout high school, and then I did it in college, and then a little bit when I was in law school, and then when I um finished law school, I kind of did a couple last shows, and then I put it to the side so I could do this business. And I do plan to go back to it eventually, because it's so much fun. But I'm not, I was pretty good, but I would never consider myself at the level of like the magicians that get famous and stuff like that. But yes, favorite trick. It's more like I love like close up magic. So like I used to get hired by restaurants where if there was a busy restaurant and they have like a long wait and stuff, I would go around to like the people waiting, and then the people like at their table while they're waiting for food, or waiting to order whatever. And I would go in for just a small, you know, effect, I call it. Not really a trick, but yeah, like something I can show them close up. Whether it be like something with a dollar bill, or cards or coins or something, and just something that's like right in front of their face so that they like it blows their mind. That's kind of the stuff I would do.
Yeah, wow. Can you do the saw someone in half trick?
No, I did used to do some stage stuff. I did a few like on stage shows, but they were more like comedy. I got into stand up for a little bit as well, and just did like comedy magic on stage. So I didn't have any big like illusions or anything. I never had all that
Yeah,
equipment.
illusions. Yeah, yeah. That's what.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Harry Houdini.
Yeah, who's a great inspiration. But yeah, and it's funny, there is actually a connection between that and what I do now, which is, direct response is all about sort of just like having this direct connection with people. And that's what magic was about too, like, and is about, is, it's a performance art, and it's about sort of creating this thread between you and the other person that you're doing the magic for. And I see that same like thing coming across in marketing and what I do today.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to say that there's probably some connection there.
Yeah.
Uh, do you have a favorite meal that you go for when you go out for a special meal
So
and want to cook something nice?
yeah, it's funny. Like I, so I recently did a lot of traveling, as I was telling you, like around the country. And one thing I've learned is like I'll eat differently depending where I am. So it's hard to answer like my favorite food of all time. I grew up near Philadelphia. I grew up in New Jersey near Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So I love a good cheesesteak. But I don't, I'll only do that if I'm back in that area, right? Same thing with pizza. Like I love pizza, but I'll only get a pizza if I'm in New Jersey or if I'm in like that region, because it's not the same elsewhere. So when I'm in Florida, I usually do a lot more dieting. I eat a lot of fish. We have you can get great fish anywhere around here. Sushi is awesome. And I would say the other thing, I guess tacos. Probably my favorite meal, like overall in general, would be tacos.
Okay, interesting. Okay. And what would you say was your favorite book?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this one because I knew you were going to ask me this, and it's really hard for me to pinpoint a favorite book. Um, so I would say that like fiction, I used to love Stephen King. I used to read a lot of Stephen King books, and there's a book called From a Buick 8. It's one of his lesser known books, and I read it when I was in high school, and I still to this day would say that's probably like the one that stands out. These days, though, I read more like, business type books or books that would help me, in just business and life. And I would say probably Robert Greene's books, like the 48 Laws of Power, is an amazing, amazing book. That like if you read that, you'll see that everywhere, like all the different like power influence stuff you'll see everywhere. And then just one more that I do want to mention for your audience, if they haven't read, I have this right next to me. Essentialism by Greg McCune. It is, you ever hear this book? Read this?
No, no.
Um, Highly recommend. If you're going to read one book in the next year, do this one. You can even, I always do audiobooks these days, but it basically helps you to see how like most of the things you do during the day are non-essential. They're not like they're basically like if you learn this way of life called essentialism, you are really focusing on less things, but you're doing them better. So it shows you how to cut out all of the stuff in your life that are kind of it is to do with like doing more of what you want to and like what you enjoy, and not having to just get pulled in a bunch of directions because you feel like you have to. But it's that book, I would say, like I read that in 2022, like so almost 2 years ago now, like beginning of 2022. That book has changed my life. I operate differently just from learning the concepts in that book. So I would say that's like my new favorite book these days.
Wow, that's a good recommendation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Uh, do you have a favorite quote that you live your life by, or just a favorite quote?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. This isn't necessarily my favorite quote, but it's the one that's coming to mind because it's meant stuff to me lately. And it's by a mentor of mine. He said, "What you resist persists." So, and I've like taught this to clients recently too, because basically what it's saying is like there's always going to be stuff going on in your life that you feel this resistance towards. And the more that you resist it, the more that you like feel this tension, it's going to keep happening, or it's going to keep bothering you. It's going to keep being a problem. But when you accept it and you just like let it go and say, like, I totally embrace this thing that I've been resisting, then it evaporates. It
Mm,
dissipates. And it's weird too, because you'll see this work. It's like a law of nature. Like, for example, if there's something where like I'll give you a client example. They had this thing going on where they kept losing team members, where like every time I talked to them, someone else quit or someone else had like an emergency and they had to not, they can't work anymore, or they had to let someone go. And this kept happening. I told them this quote, and they said, that's really crazy because we've been like super stressed about people leaving, and you're right, like it keeps happening. So then they tried it and they stopped. Like they were like, all right, we're just going to embrace it, and then it stopped. It
yeah,
stopped. It was
yeah,
weird, but yeah, so that's the quote.
yeah. You kind of like just let it happen, and yeah, you get prepared for it to happen. It doesn't happen.
Yeah,
It's
just accept everything. That's
yeah,
that's
yeah,
the other side of that, basically.
yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
And have you got any plans like in the future, like or any
um
yeah
yeah,
plans for the business?
yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff. I mean, we are trying, we really want to grow. I mean, we are still a pretty small company. Our biggest thing is we want to be a 7-figure business within the next year. I think we can, because
Yeah.
we're mid 6 figures right now, and it's just about focus and really like buckling down and scaling. So like I told you how we did a lot of travel. My brother and I did like around the country this past summer, because summers are horrible here in Florida. So like if you can get out, it's great. But we decided that for the next year, we are buckling down and staying here and just working. And we're gonna have social lives here, but I mean, like we're gonna just focus on growing the business. So the plan is we want to have a lot more clients. We've got like, it depends on how you count it between, because we have consulting clients, we have done for you agency clients. We've got several different ways we're doing our work now, but basically we want to get it up to like in that like 50 client range, somewhere in there, within the next year. And we want to be, in the 7-figure range, and we want to have a team that's bigger. We want to like double the size of our team. And then we plan on moving out west to like the Phoenix, Scottsdale area, and sort of establishing a hub there. And I love Florida, and I love where we are now, and I probably wouldn't like let this go completely. Like probably have still something here, but I've been here 10 years now, and I really want a change of environment. So that's sort of the plan, is to move out there and start building kind of a new life. But the business, I think one of the things that we're doing so much more of right now is consulting for people. And the challenge with that is you can only take on so many, because right now, even though we have our whole team, the consulting aspect of it is mostly my brother and I, because we've been in this business 5 years, and we are the people that can really explain everything and coach people essentially. So I think a big part of what we're going to be doing over the next year plus is helping our team be able to do that same thing, so that we can really grow. Because I think it's a bit challenging to have, teach what from experience to get other people to be able to teach people. I think that's a little hard. But that's just my perspective, though, still kind
Yeah.
of young. So
Yeah. Sounds exciting.
yeah.
Sounds good.
What
Sounds
about you? Yeah. What about you? What are your plans?
uh, keep expanding.
Yeah.
I need to get a team around me because it's mainly me at the moment.
Okay.
I need to build a team to do
Okay.
all the different stuff that I do. So I'm not just doing it myself.
Okay. Cool.
That's my
Yeah.
plan. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's that you do need that for sure.
And do more emails, of course.
Yeah.
Uh, what is the best way for people to contact you if they
um,
reach out to you to find out more about you and what you could do for them?
Sure. So me personally, I am on LinkedIn. And you can look up, I'm sure you'll have my name here in this somewhere in this interview.
I'll be down there or up there.
Okay, cool. So yeah, they can definitely look. I'm on LinkedIn. But the best thing is actually sign up for our email list, my email list. It's called the Email Revolution newsletter.
Yeah,
And they can sign up by going to email123.club. And that's all you type in. Don't do HTTPS www, just email123.club. You
yeah,
sign up for the Email Revolution newsletter. That's probably the best way to stay in touch with to stay up to date with what we're doing, and to hear from me personally. And then you can always reply to any email I send, and that goes directly to my personal email. And you can contact me that way.
yeah. Well, I'll put that link below,
For sure. Awesome.
and LinkedIn, Facebook.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm on both of those platforms. I'm not super active these days. I'm going to be more active though soon. So you can check me out there.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thanks,
Awesome.
thanks, Josh. I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Appreciate your
Mike. I
time.
appreciate it as well. For
Given
sure.
lots of value to the listeners and the viewers,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I think you'll inspire a lot of people to actually, make sure that email marketing marketing plan and their efforts are, they step up their game. Basically, I'll step up my game